Hey, Christian Academy. This is Dr. Shell here. We are in the middle of Holy Week, which started on Palm Sunday, and I hope you had the opportunity to look at the chapel talk I gave about the Palms, and that's on YouTube, and we sent out a link to that. And normally, and when we're at Christian Academy, we roll together discussions of the death of Christ in chapel, and then we go outside to blossom the cross. So we roll the crucifixion, the death of Jesus, into our celebration of the resurrection. This week, this year, we're going to do something a little different. I presented here Miss Morrow doing a reading of the story of Jesus' death that we sometimes call the Passion, and it's going to end with Jesus' death. And then I hope you will look forward to this Sunday celebrating with your family and hopefully your church on video or conferencing somehow, that you'll be able to celebrate the resurrection with your family and your church in some way. And I'm going to challenge you to do some art to reflect on the death of Jesus and the resurrection. So God bless you. I hope you get a lot out of this, and to thank Ms. Morrow for recording this for us.
Now it was the governor's custom to release one prisoner to the crowd each year during the Passover celebration. Anyone they wanted. This year there was a horrible criminal in prison, a man named Barabbas. And as the crowds gathered before Pilate's house that morning, he asked them, "Which one do you want me to release to you? Barabbas or Jesus, who is called the Messiah?" You see, he knew very well that the Jewish leaders had arrested Jesus because they were jealous of him. Meanwhile, the leading priests and other leaders talked the crowds into asking for Barabbas to be released and for Jesus to be put to death. So when the governor asked again, "Which of these two do you want me to release to you?" the crowd shouted back their reply, "Barabbas!" "But if I release Barabbas," Pilate asked them, "then what should I do with Jesus, who is called the Messiah?" And they shouted, "Crucify him! Crucify him! Crucify him!" Pilate saw that he wasn't getting anywhere, and a riot was developing, and so he sent for a bowl of water, and he washed his hands before the crowd, saying, "I am innocent of the blood of this man. The responsibility is yours." The people yelled back, "We will take responsibility for his death, we and our children." And so Pilate released Barabbas to them, and he ordered Jesus to be flogged, beaten, with lead and glass-tipped whip. And then he turned him over to the Roman soldiers to crucify him. They took Jesus into their headquarters, and they called out all of the soldiers. They stripped him, and they put a purple robe on him, and they made a crown of long, sharp thorns, and they put it on his head, and they placed a stick in his right hand as a scepter. And they made fun of him, and they started yelling, "Hail, King of the Jews!" And they spit on him, and they grabbed the stick, and they beat him on the head with it. When they were finally tired of mocking him, they took off the robe, and they put his own clothes on him again. And then they led him away to be crucified. After they nailed him to the cross, the soldiers gambled for his clothes by throwing dice. They sat around and kept guard as he hung there. A sign was fastened to the cross above Jesus' head announcing the charge against him, and it read, "This is Jesus, King of the Jews." 2 criminals were crucified with him, their crosses on either side of his. And the people passing by shouted, "So you could destroy the temple and then build it again in 3 days, can you? Then if you are the Son of God, then you can save yourself and come down off that cross. Standing near the cross was Jesus' mother, and his mother's sister Mary, and Mary Magdalene. And when Jesus saw his mother standing right there beside John, he said to her, "Woman, he is now your son." And he said to John, "She is now your mother." And from then on, this disciple took her into his home to care for her. And then at noon, darkness fell across the whole land until 3 o'clock. And at about 3 o'clock, Jesus called out with a very loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Jesus knew that everything was now finished. And to fulfill the scriptures, he said, "I am thirsty." A jar of sour wine was sitting there, and so they soaked a sponge in it, put it on a branch, and held it up to his lips. And when Jesus had tasted it, he said, "It is finished." And then he bowed his head and he gave up his spirit. And at that moment, the curtain in the temple was torn in two from the top to the bottom. And the earth shook, and rocks split apart, and tombs opened. And the Roman officer and the other soldiers at the crucifixion were terrified by the earthquake and all that had happened. And they said, "Truly, this was the Son of God."
All right, so as we move toward the celebration of Easter, I'm going to challenge you to do two things. After hearing Ms. Morrow read the Passion story and seeing some of the children's artwork of Jesus on the cross, I want to challenge you to draw something to reflect on the death of Jesus. Jesus on the cross, or Jesus on trial, or Jesus praying in the garden. I want you to use art and draw crayons and markers and pencils. I'd like you to draw something that makes you think about the death of Jesus and how much he loves you. And you can email that to me if you want to take a picture of it and email it to me, or just simply put it up somewhere in your house that other people can see it. And then I want to challenge you if you've got some chalk art, I want to challenge you to go out and by Sunday, make sure you put a message out there on your sidewalk that says, "He is alive, he is risen, the empty tomb." I want you to somehow find a way to express to your neighbors that even though we can't go to church and even though we can't have chapel, that he's alive and that we're celebrating the fact that Jesus is risen. So you have two challenges. If you want to participate, to draw some artwork about the death of Jesus and how much he loves us, and then something out so other people can see it. Chalk art, make a sign, put it on your window, put it out on your, find a way to put it on a poster board. Find some way to proclaim that he is alive for all your neighbors to see. So God bless you, and I'll look forward to having another message for you next week. Have a great Easter Sunday, what I call Resurrection Sunday, when we celebrate that he is alive.